welcome back to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. On this channel, I teach you how to make delicious and easy recipes that are perfect for sharing with your loved ones so that way you can help create beautiful memories, because what's better than cooking for the ones you love and then sharing that meal together, whether it be family, friends, or whoever. So today I'm going to teach you how to make shepherd's pie, but I'm going to Greekify it a little bit. It's not traditional, it's not a classic dish that's served in Greek culture, but we do have moussaka, which is something similar. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind. I'm going to create a layer with Briam, which is the Greek version of Ratatouille. So that's going to be the vegetable layer. Then I'm going to make a hearty meat sauce that's going to have eggplant sneakily cooked into there. Sneakily, is that a word? But my kids don't like eggplant, and that's the only way I could get it into them unless I deep fry it. Then I mean, who wouldn't eat anything deep fried? Then we're going to top it with a creamy mashed potato on the top, and we're going to bake it until it's beautifully golden and delicious. Now, you can switch up the vegetables and put in whatever you like. So I'm using bell peppers, zucchini, and onions, and some spinach. I'm also using frozen corn because that's my kids' favorite part of this whole meal. But you can switch it up and use whichever vegetables you want, no problem. You could throw some mushrooms in there if you really like them. But that's it. Let's begin by making the mashed potatoes. There are a few steps to this. So you can make a few things ahead of time. You can create the vegetable base a day or two ahead of time and keep it refrigerated. You could also make the meat sauce a month ahead of time because it freezes well. I mean, if you have meat sauce in your fridge, that would be perfect. But you can do the steps ahead of time, or you can do it all at once. It'll be totally worth the effort. So we're going to start by making the mashed potatoes. Go ahead and peel about 2.5 pounds of baking potatoes and cut them into chunks. Put them in a pot and cover with cold water and season with about a teaspoon of salt. Bring everything to a boil, then reduce the heat to medium, and then we're going to cook this until the potatoes are fork tender. Then we're going to drain the water out and start to mash them with a potato masher, or you can mix these together with using a hand blender. Then go in and add 4 tablespoons of salted butter. If you have unsalted butter, go ahead and use that instead, and then you can adjust the seasoning with more salt and pepper. Then continue to mash until the butter is all absorbed and the potatoes are going to start to become nice and creamy. Then you're going to want to warm up some milk. I like to use whole milk. Warm it up slightly until it's lukewarm and pour it a little bit at a time while you mix the potatoes so they can absorb all that milk. Then you're going to have to switch to a wooden spatula and mix it all together. In the end, the mixture is not going to look like mashed potatoes. It's going to be on the thinner side. But don't worry, because we're going to cook this down a little bit over medium-low heat until it becomes nice and thick and the consistency of bechamel. Now, if you want to skip that step completely, just add about a half a cup less milk, and then you will not have to cook it further. I just like to do this because the potatoes stay nice and moist and a little bit creamier. Take it off of the heat once it's thickened and mix in the Parmesan cheese and give it a taste and set it aside. Now it's time to make the meat sauce. Now in a cast iron skillet that I have heating over medium heat, I'm going to go ahead and add an onion that I've roughly chopped with about 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm going to let this cook until the onions are nice and golden. So the onions are nice and golden. Now we're going to add the grated garlic. 6 garlic cloves is what we have here, from lots and lots of flavor. And you just want to warm it through a few seconds. Once you smell it, you're good to go. Now we're going to add the ground beef. You can use ground beef, ground chicken, or ground lamb. And just break it apart. And we're just going to slightly brown it just a little bit, just until the pinkness goes away. It's going to take about 3-4 minutes over high heat. So that's done. Now I like to sneak in as many vegetables as I can when I'm cooking for my family. So even though the Briam layer that we're layering on the bottom of the shepherd's pie should have eggplant, a lot of people in my house don't like the eggplant, so I like to sneak it in to the meat sauce. That really ups the nutrition factor. It makes it creamier and it just makes it go much further than if you were just to use the meat sauce. So what I did was I just peeled 1 whole eggplant and then I cut it into smaller pieces. I sprinkled it with some salt and I just let it sit aside for about 10-15 minutes so the bitter juices can come out. And now I'm just going to pat it dry with some paper towels. And I'm just going to add it to the ground beef. I'm going to season at this point with some salt, some black pepper, crushed red pepper flakes for heat, a little bit of dried oregano, 15-ounce can of tomatoes that I've pureed. And we don't waste anything around here, so we're gonna rinse this out with a little bit of water, about a half a cup. I'm gonna mix it all up and I'm gonna let it cook over medium-high heat for about 15 or 20 minutes or until the eggplant breaks down completely. You shouldn't be able to see it anymore and the meat is gonna be perfectly cooked. The sauce should also cook down and it should be very nice and thick. There shouldn't be any liquid left into it. So that's gonna take a little while, about 15, 20 minutes or so, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. Now it's time to make the Briam vegetable layer. Now, of course, you can do this all in one pan and wait for the ground beef sauce to be ready and just use the same pan for that. But for shooting this video a little bit quicker, I'm gonna use a separate pan. I'm not gonna like washing that extra pan later on, but it is gonna save me time. So to the pan, it's heating over medium heat. I'm gonna add some olive oil and I'm gonna add the onion that I've thinly sliced. Now I took one medium-sized onion and I just sliced it into thin rounds and let them cook for about 5 minutes or until they're nice and soft. Now we're gonna add some bell peppers that I've thinly sliced into rounds. This is a small bell pepper. If you have a big bell pepper, you can dice it. And I have a zucchini that I've also chopped up into about 1-inch size pieces. I'm gonna season this with a little bit of salt and some black pepper. And I'm just gonna give it a nice mix. We're just gonna cook these for about 2 to 3 minutes until they start to soften a little bit. Now here I have a can of tomato sauce. It's already seasoned. There's some salt, a little pinch of sugar. You can use plain diced tomatoes and just puree them, add them to here, and just season them yourself with some salt, pepper, a little bit of oregano, and a pinch of sugar. But I had this in the pantry, so I just took it out for ease. I'm gonna let this mixture cook until the vegetables are nice and soft. And I forgot one very important thing, the grated garlic. I'm gonna grate it right now and just add it to the pan as it is. It's just gonna melt in because it's grated. 2 garlic cloves, in they go. And I have 5 ounces of spinach. This is gonna be a very healthy dish, loads and loads of vegetables. Just gonna put them in there so they can cook. And this should be ready in about 5 to 10 minutes or so. Once the vegetables are cooked and all the liquid has evaporated, then go ahead and transfer them to your baking tray. I like to bake this in a lasagna pan. Anything that's like 9 by 13 by maybe 3 inches deep would do. You want a deep pan for this because there's a lot to go around. Then you're going to want to add some corn. Now corn is my kids' favorite part of this dish, so I do add 2 heaping cups of frozen corn. If you have canned corn, that will do too. And then I like to sprinkle some feta cheese on top, or crumble I should say. I crumble some feta cheese, I put it on top, the first layer is done. Now the next layer is the beef layer, and it is ready. I tasted it and the salt is perfect. At this point I would go in and sprinkle some fresh parsley, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to leave it out. I'm just gonna put the meat sauce on top. It tastes so hearty and delicious and moist and just very velvety from the eggplant that's cooked in there, and nobody will even know it's there. That is a great way to sneak in vegetables to your family's diet. You know, you put them in there, you let them melt in, and nobody knows that they're there. Eggplant is not something that kids love, you know what I mean? Then put the final layer on top, which is the mashed potatoes. It should pour on top very easily. Then your oven should be preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Let this bake for about 30 minutes or until the potatoes thicken and they're beautifully golden on top. You could even turn the broiler element on for the last few minutes, and then you want to take it out, let it rest for 30-40 minutes so it can set, and it will be ready to serve. A few things. You can do this whole thing that I did and make 2 trays, or if you're not serving for that many people, you can cut this in half and put half in one tray and half in the other, and then you could freeze it before you bake it, and you could have a meal that's going to be ready for you to put in the oven on those busy weeknights or those busy weeknights or weekdays when you don't have time to cook. You'll have something ready in the oven, because if you're going through all of these steps and you're making this, it is a good idea to have some for, you know, those rainy days or whatever you want to call them, because it does freeze beautifully. If you want to put some feta cheese in the mashed potatoes, that would be delicious too, or more feta cheese between each layer. I mean, who's to judge? Not me. I mean, I would do it because we love feta cheese around here. It is time to take a bite. And I get a little bit of everything, and it's still piping hot. It's like a party in my mouth. The vegetable layer has a lot of sweetness to it because of the corn, the bell peppers, and the caramelized onions. That meat sauce is super smooth and hearty. You cannot taste the eggplant in there. It tastes so delicious, actually. And the potatoes are like bechamel, you guys. They're perfectly moist and creamy and just delicious. I think your family is going to love this. That's the secret ingredient to all of these recipes. Share it so that way you can spread the love, spread the joy, spread the happiness, and make beautiful memories. The recipe, as always, is underneath this video in the description box. If you have any questions, post them down below, and I try to get to as many as I can. Let me know what you think, and also let me know what you want to learn how to make next. If you want to learn how to make moussaka, you can click on this annotation right here, and I will see you right over there. Bye, guys.